live. Yeah, yeah, we going live. Hey, hey, we going live. Yeah, yeah, we going live. Yeah, yeah, we going. Yeah, yeah, we going. Yeah, 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 we going live. From the 50-yard line, we going live. From the 50-yard line, we going live. From the 50-yard line. Hey.
Real good topics. And our first topic, listen. So I know that, what's her name? Aaliyah, I can't think of her name, from South Carolina, is a baller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't think of her last name right now. But this girl right here, this woman right here, Caitlin Clark of Iowa, is a beast.
Yeah.
She is a beast. She made history last week. First D1 player in both men and women's basketball, let's be clear, to have back-to-back triple doubles while scoring at least 30 points in both games.
Right. Amazing.
You just dominated. Like, she just had a 44-point game. Like, girl is just balling, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just balling. She's also the first woman in Big Ten college basketball with back-to-back triple doubles. So it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then she just recently, like 2 days ago, broke another record.
Wow.
With the most assists in Big Ten history with 17.
Wow. She's a well-rounded, she's like a walking triple-double. Literally.
I can't wait to see her in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's only a sophomore. So we got 2 more this season plus 2 more seasons. Like she's only gonna get better.
Oh my gosh. I said, wow. She's for real. Like, I'm trying to remember, it was who was the last player that just was really like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Like, wow.
Diana Taurasi.
Okay. Well,
Maya Moore.
How she does. Maya came to mind, but it's been another young lady that played at UConn after Maya, and I cannot think of her name right now. She was a baller. I cannot think of her name right now, but she was a baller too. She was like, I was like, oh, she because she broke some of Maya's records. Like, she was a baller. I just cannot think of her name right now, but this young lady.
Mm-hmm.
This real right here, okay?
Yeah.
Real.
It's definitely a good story.
Yeah, I said I'm gonna do better because I don't really typically, honestly, watch a lot of college basketball until they get to like March Madness.
Yeah.
But I said I'm gonna have to check them out because I'm sure that because of her, they're gonna be on TV more.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to check her out. I want to just see her play for myself, like not just see her stats, but see her play for myself. Clearly, she's a little bit above the average player at this point. So so we're gonna see what happens with her. So all right. So next, the bill. So I'm glad that story wasn't long because these next 2 might take a minute.
Okay.
The Bills versus the Chiefs game left a sour taste about the overtime rules. So I put a stat here. It says 90.9% of the teams that win the coin toss win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So should this rule be changed?
Absolutely. It is what it is, but it's not fair. I was looking it up, and this was very good. Manuel Acho, who I love, he's amazing. He said this. He said, it's time to re-examine the rules. He said Josh Allen threw for 329 yards and 4 touchdowns. He scored on 3 of his final 4 possessions and never touched the ball in overtime. Mm-hmm. Not allowing Josh Allen, the best player in today's game, to touch the ball in overtime is one thing the NFL must fix. A game this great shouldn't have come down to a coin toss.
Yep.
Point blank, period. That game was as evenly and as fairly played as any game we can almost argue this season.
Yes.
And it up to this point is the most important game, right? Because we
for
have
them,
to
yes.
this week.
Absolutely.
So the fact that Buffalo didn't even get a chance, we got to fix that, because we got to figure out a way to make overtime as fair as regulation, with stipulations of, you know, how the time and all that, where the ball is placed, maybe both teams get the ball on a 40, and like something has to change, because if Buffalo did all they could, they didn't lose.
Yeah.
Kansas City won. Buffalo did not lose that.
Right.
And as a player, I could imagine, I mean, they were just distraught, but that's not their fault. They just called the wrong thing.
It just happened the way that it happened.
It's chance. So and typically, especially if the team that wins the coin toss was a team that scored the time score Kansas City did, they already had the momentum. So they was already rolling, and they're playing at home.
Right.
So you know, like that really set bad, you know, but the rules are the rules, but we gotta look back at that, because that game was too great to come down to chance.
Yeah, no, it was. I agree.
It was too great.
It was. And Kansas City knows what this feels like.
Right. What's happened to them last year?
To them 2 years ago against the Patriots. Yes. So they know what this feels like, right? They know exactly what this feels like. So I you know, Jared and I try not to just come talk about a problem. We come with a solution. If the NFL is caring to hear what we have to say, why don't they do something that is close to what they do in college, where both teams get the ball regardless?
Right.
And I know the reason that they don't want to do it is because, you know, unlike college football, that's not true, but I think more so than college football, the way that they structure the games is so tight on TV that they have to take all of that into consideration. So what if they probably could have kept going for another couple of hours, just back and forth like that. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. And you can't let it end in a tie. It's a game that's got to be decided. So you would have had to have just let them go back and forth and go back and forth. But I just feel like it seems more fair to let it happen that way. And whoever runs out of gas versus you just say, you know, and then it's not even like or you come up with another system. Flipping a coin seems very antiquated.
Yeah.
You come up with another system, another way to determine who gets the ball first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than just a flip of the coin.
Yeah, like a full kickoff, they got to go the length of the field. Then you say, okay, y'all got to start on the opposite 20, you know what I'm saying? Opposite 25. Like, even if it comes down to like in the third or fourth one, but like the first one, they both got to get a chance. Like, I get we have to end, but like, Buffalo, my heart was hurting for them, because they deserved a chance to win, because they played a winning football game.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the game
they played a winning football game. But yes, I think it has to be changed, and I think the NFL should take a look at that.
Absolutely. I felt like it was heartbreaking to watch.
And I knew Kansas City was gonna score. I knew that. I was like, it's over. I almost turned the TV off. I was like, what am I watching for? Like, they about to score. They had just scored before. I'm like, okay, it's over.
First of all,
sorry, Buffalo. I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. Right. And they knew as soon as they got the ball. They did. Knew as soon as that coin toss went their way, it was over. They was already celebrating before they even got on the field.
Yeah, they knew.
They were about to do what they were gonna do. But I just feel like NFL, do better. This is one y'all need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure out a better way to do this. Make it fair. It shouldn't come down to this and because this leaves you like, I imagine they would rather lose handily than for it to go this way. You know what I mean? Right. Just beat us down. And that makes me feel better.
because they couldn't have done anything else. They did all they could do, literally.
Yep.
They did. It's a sad situation.
So I need them to fix this. NFL, we need you to fix this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Now this next story. Y'all just bear with me because I'm gonna read everything I wrote here. Okay. So the National Hockey League just had a racist incident that happened, a racial incident that happened. Jordan Subban was the brother of NHL All-Star defenseman PK Subban, had an altercation in his minor league hockey game with Jacob Panada. According to Jordan, Jacob made a monkey gesture at him during the altercation. Jacob was suspended indefinitely and eventually let go for this incident. He has since released a video on Twitter explaining that it was a tough guy motion, not a monkey move, and it was not racially motivated. So I was wondering, let's talk about it before I ask the question. Let's talk about what happened first. I listened to PK Subban's, he did a like a press conference.
I did, yeah.
And listening to him talk about having that the NHL needs to do better, that this should not be happening. We know that seeing or people of color that are starting to be a part of it, it's definitely growing. And I just wonder if there is a culture that is in place here that it needs to be addressed for real. You know what I mean? Like, let's not pretend like, oh, he did what? Like, don't, because from what I understand, just in reading stories from African-American players who play hockey, a lot of times they're getting from the fans, from the players, a lot of this kind of stuff happening. Right. And so I'm doing a training right now with an organization, and in that training, we're talking about shifting cultural norms. And I feel like the NHL may need to take my training, because y'all need to switch your cultural norms and for it not to feel like, so this is the question was, could Jacob, who was the accused, because they all got J names, Jacob, who was the accused, could he have been telling the truth that he was just, because in his statement, his Twitter, in his tweet, he said, I always make this like tough guy thing when I get into these altercations, because he seems to be a little slight of size. I will say that, to play hockey, but it's minor league, so I'll leave that alone. But he said that that's what he always does. And so I was wondering if that's really, if that feels like that's the truth, or is he just covering his butt? You know what I mean? And is it that Jordan took it the way that he did because of the culture? You know what I mean? So right. I'm just trying to figure, I have no idea what his intention was, whether he meant it that way when he did it, or if he thought about it later and said, I shouldn't have done that, and that was his excuse. Either way, it's an allegation. It's not, they have not said, I don't think they've actually even tried to prove it right or wrong. They just took Jordan's word for it and got rid of it.
Correct.
What do you think?
So I went back and I found the clip. It was kind of hard to see, but they were clearly going at it. And I listened to Jacob's Twitter video. And I could honestly see what he was saying.
Yeah.
I don't think from being in the heat of the moment, first of all, they always fighting and trying to get each other on. So it was just a whole mess happening.
Oh, you just pick him out to be the person that you say.
Right. Like it was, yeah. So, but it was, once they got separated, it was it had become them two, those
right.
two.
Mhm.
But honestly, I didn't think it was a racial gesture. I thought it was a man to man, like, oh, you want,
Yeah,
like, what's up?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
saw.
yeah,
But then looking at Jordan's reaction, that's not what he interpreted,
exactly.
because he tried to charge back at him.
Right, right.
So I get your point. Like, the culture is what it is. So everything, we're so sensitive. Not saying that he's sensitive for feeling that, but like, everything is so hypersensitive that
Right,
everything is something.
right,
And then we're in a place where, like, organizations react. And
right.
first they said they were suspending him indefinitely, but they were going to investigate. Then next thing I saw, he was gone.
Yeah.
So it's a very volatile space,
Yes.
because you want organizations to respond.
Right.
You want players to feel like they're being protected, but you also need players to feel like they're being heard as well.
Yeah.
In the midst of a conflict,
Yeah.
So, but I do know hockey, they have diversity issues and they have inclusion
Yes.
issues and things like that. And this may not have been that, but it could have shed light on that as how it played out. But I listened to PK as well, and what he was alluding to was, if this wasn't my brother, then his voice would not have been heard in the way that it's being heard now.
Right.
Which that hit something, because I was like, okay, that's true. Now, whether Jordan meant it that way, whatever the situation is, the fact that we're talking about it is because of who PK is.
Right.
Not because of who either one of them are.
Nope. That's it.
So
that in itself is a problem, because
that's a bigger problem than if he meant it as a racial thing or not.
Absolutely.
To me, like, the fact that it's only getting pushed because of PK's status and his social media influence and his track record.
Right.
Now it becomes a national conversation. So there was a lot in that, but I could see what he was saying. I didn't take it as that, but I'm not in the culture of hockey every day either.
Right. And we don't know what was said. We don't know, like, none of that. Like, I mean, he seemed pretty, I want to say, I don't want to use the word confident, but that's the only thing that's coming to mind. Pretty confident in his, like, he seemed like he was sincere in what he was saying.
I thought he was.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we don't know what happened, but I feel like what it did is what you just said. It opened up a bigger issue. Let's talk about what's really happening that would even make somebody who plays with you or plays against you, that would be their first thought, that you were coming at them in a racial manner, because this is what they're used to. This is what, and who knows, you might have said something earlier that made him feel like when you did that, like, we don't know the whole story, and we're not trying to be judge and jury here. I just wanted to bring up the point, because I felt like, in case Jacob did not truly mean it the way that it was interpreted, could it be the conversation needs to be less about his actions and more about the NHL?
Correct.
What they do going forward. Correct. To try to correct the whole issue, the bigger issue. Let's not focus on this little part, and it's not little, but this part right here, when there's a bigger issue at work here. And I feel like that's where they need, that's where the attention in this needs to go. And that's why I appreciated, that was kind of PK's point too, was it didn't get any traction. It only got traction because of who I am, but now I'm about to just bring it all the way to the front. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Right. And so, and even saying that, this is something that needs to be dealt with. And he's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's right. Why would I go to work to be abused?
Right.
And you allow me to be abused. What?
Yeah.
No, that's not how this should go. So I just thought that was an interesting story to kind of talk about. I think what you said was right. We're in a hypersensitive time. Not that there's not reason for it necessarily, but I think if we don't deal with the bigger issues, then it just continues to happen. And we're gonna always be having these moments where it's oh, I'm mad about this. We see it
Yeah.
when things happen. This is what happens. We go out, we express how we feel, and then we go back. We express how we feel, but because we don't ever really deal with the real issue.
Right.
The real issue never gets dealt with.
Now put the cameras on me, 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 put the cameras on me.